So it's kind of late in the day, but I'm just going to do this anyway because what better time? I mean, it's my one free afternoon in my entire week because I work and have school, but I got my trail mix here and I got some screwdrivers. We're just going to plop those down there. And as you can see, there's some crusty old bike. This was actually mine when I was like 7 years old. But you know, I was looking at some documentaries from how Bentley got started and Rolls-Royce and Aston Martin and Ford, how they all got started, you know, and Cadillac. Listen, I was on a binge, okay? But Bentley started working on bikes, you know? That's how he started. And you know what? I'm just a young boy who randomly got interested in cars all of a sudden, and now I want to work on cars. Like, it came out of nowhere. I was going to be an architect, and now, you know what? Screw that future. I want to be a mechanic now, because cars are cool. And if you're watching this, you probably agree, or you're just a fan of Jungle Jimothy. But, you know, either way, glad to have you. So today, we're going to be taking apart this bike, and we're gonna see how a bike works, you know? I'll show you all the gears and stuff, and I'll tell you guys what I find, you know? Because I really don't know how any mechanisms work, and if you're gonna be a mechanic, you kinda need to know a bunch of stuff. So hopefully we learn some quality content here today. So to start, I'm actually getting a random stick off of the ground, and we're just gonna get rid of this cobweb. As you can tell, hasn't been ridden in who knows how long, but yeah, this thing is crusty and ancient. Just want it to look nice before we destroy it and take it apart, you know. So first up, we got to get these ratchet bolt right here. There doesn't look like there's one on the other side, but it has this little metal bracket, which if you see on the other side is blocking this thing from coming out. You know, it can't come out because that thing's stuck on there. So we got to take that off. And strangely enough, this is just tied to this right here. So we need to unscrew this first so that this is just not attached to the bike. And then I think we can slide this off that way. We'll just see how it goes. Also, don't question the cat over there. He's just rolling around. But not really sure exactly how this works, but either way, we got to get this off first, and also that little screw back here. All right, so I finally found the ratchet that fits. It looks like this one's a 5/8. So we're just gonna go ahead and take this bad boy off. Oh, look, you can see my reflection. Now, that was possibly the most painful thing I've ever done. I don't know why I thought it was gonna be easy to get this extremely rusty bolt to come undone. But I used all the strength in my arm, and I actually heard my bones snap, so that was nice. But we loosened it, so we're getting there. We're getting there, guys. I can't do this one-handed, but gotta film it for you guys, you know? And this thing's loose enough that it's probably faster if I just do it by hand. There we go. So, looks like, oh, that was actually just the whole bike. Oh, but we did reveal this screw, so. Oh, no, that was already revealed. You know, who cares? We're taking the whole bike apart anyway. But for this thing, looks like we just need this screw. And the screw is a much easier to undo than the ratchet was, so we're not really gonna have a problem here. Yeah, there he comes. Look at that bad boy. Oh, it's not gonna focus. Look at that shrimpy little screw, rusty hole. And it looks like this thing's pretty loose now. It's just hooked behind there, but I think we can take it over the top, and then we'll see, is this hooked on anything up here? I think it's just this right here. Just that screw. Take that off and should be able to get this off. And we'll see all those gears down there. So for some reason, this one isn't actually rusty at all. It looks like the entire thing's trying to move, but that's just fine. We're taking this guy out. Also, my phone's like 8%, but we're just gonna have to deal with it. There he is, the hamster. All right, there we are. No idea where that went, but it's gone forever. Looks like we can take this guy off. There we are. Look at that fresh decal. What's this called? The Storm. Sick. Anyway, look at that. Naked bike. Rusty chain. This thing is extremely rusty. I guess it's not going to move because it's not off the ground. We're going to have to find some way to get it off the ground. I'll see you when I do that. Now, this bike is way too small for me to even ride, but, you know, if I could ride it, I think the chain would probably fall off right about now. I couldn't find any way to, like, stand it right side up. I don't know if mechanics have a stand for these kind of things, but I'm just flipping it over because that's the generic way to do this. Also, the kickstand probably doesn't need to be up. There we go. Well, yeah, here it is exposed. It's pretty much just a simple gear. And then we got another gear on this end. So if I turn this, it spins that guy. And the front one just turns. That doesn't really have anything. We'll figure out how it turns in a while here when we take that apart. But yeah, first let's take a look at this, you know. So it's got a chain here. Gear turns the chain. It can't turn this way, which I'm not really sure how they managed to do that. Maybe, like, that's interesting that it doesn't turn that way, you know. It can only turn this way. Like it just can't go that way, which is strange. So yeah, there's a good look at the chain spinning it, you know, which this is actually separate from the wheel, it seems. Like it spins the wheel there, but when I stop the gear, see, the wheel is still moving, which is interesting. There must be some kind of bearing in here that's turning that. But what I want to know is, like, see this? Look, it's moving around that thing. So the steel, the silvery thing is just, it's staying there. But this thing can move around it. So I don't know if there's some kind of bearing in there or if it's just like a slippery surface that it's able to slide around. But what I want to do is slide this guy out here and then we'll see. Looks like there's just another bracket on this side and then another one under that. But then we should be able to take the tire off maybe. And then we can see the bearings in there. I just want to know, you know, how this spins while that stays. And also how this spins separately. I mean, I'm sure I could have looked at a diagram before, but this is a better way to learn, so we're doing it this way. So my hands are all like covered in grease now, so if you're concerned about getting dirty, I would suggest wearing gloves, but to be fair, it's just a bike, so you can't really expect too much. It's not like you're changing oil. But then again, this one's really old, so it's just caked in grime and oil and rust and stuff. So I'm probably gonna get like tetanus, but who cares? It's all worth it, you know. It's all worth it in the end. Gonna find out how a bike works. Now, as I remember, the first one is like really hard to get off. I guess I should probably be doing it downwards instead of this direction. So it takes way more force to get this thing off than it does to lift the bike. So I had to just push the bike over because it kept falling over. There we are. The first one is just pretty much it. And then I think it's loose enough for me already to just take it off with my hands. So yeah, we're just going to do that. Hopefully there's no like terrible side effects to rusty bolts, but I guess I'll find out in a couple weeks if I get a disease that is life-threatening. All right, and there we go. We got that one off. Look at that guy. Nice and clean. 24. Not stripped at all. All right. So we got a really rusty guy right here. And then we have a screw there. I'm not sure if there's a screw on the other side, but looks like if we get that guy off, the screw, this tire might be ready to come out, you know? I think that might just be it. Pretty sure. We'll test it and see. Yeah, I know I said the screws weren't hard to get off, but I'm regretting saying that because this one is like literally impossible. Is there any easier way to do this? I think this thing is not coming out. So after using all of my strength and energy to try and get this screw off, I found that there's just a bolt on the other side. So we're gonna try and just unscrew that first, and maybe the whole thing will come off. So this one single bolt or whatever is being an extreme pain. Tried with the screwdriver, tried with the ratchet. Now I got a wrench. And then I also brought out a power drill to see if that works. I'm assuming it won't, but we're gonna try and wrench this thing off first. Guys, call me Albert Einstein, because it appears that we found our solution. Wrench for the win. Listen, we'll get there eventually, just not anytime soon. So I actually needed my mother to come out here, who sadly knows way more about tools than I do. And so she showed me that I have to put the ratchet on here, on the nut, so that it doesn't spin, because I guess the whole thing was spinning. And then this also was just stripped so it wouldn't come off. So what happened was I had to hold this here and then ratchet it off to loosen it. So now it's actually loose, guys. Look at that. Problem solving. Don't know how to do it? Go ask your mother. Also, the drill was not a good idea. That was never gonna work. So I don't even know why that was an idea that I had. But yeah, it wasn't just that it was too tight. It also was just spinning and also stripped. There we are, guys. Looks like it came off. Look at that. You get a high quality close up on that rusty bolt, rusty screw right there. Throw it in the pile with the other ones. All right, guys, looks like here, now this thing is separated. The tire should be free. Look at that, it's about to just roll off. It wants to leave, but also the belt is on, so we're gonna take the belt off first. So it doesn't just dangle there with the belt on. So it's actually dark enough out now, just from me taking that screw off, that the outside light is coming on. I'm not sure how they actually make these loose enough. How do you loosen the chain? Is that a thing you can do? I'm not really sure if you can do that. I'm just gonna rip it off violently. There we go. And then we'll take this over the top. Look at that dangling chain right there. That means this tire should be good. Come off. Look at that. That's a loose tire, guys. We took that off together. Tire. Now, right here, looks like we got absolutely nothing, because everything was actually on the tire. These are just brackets where it screws in. So I guess it just spins in that little screw there. But as we know, it's not the entire thing that's spinning in the screw place. It's actually the tire is separate from this gear. So we're gonna see if we can't take these gears apart and investigate deeper on how this tire turns, you know? We have this little, what is this, an idle bar here? Oh, I mean, that's interesting to see. Actually, if you turn this down here, it turns the other side. So that's pretty neat. You can spin it like that. That's cool. So this thing turns, I guess, with the tire, because this bracket goes on the bike. So that's the only thing attached to the bike, actually. And so imagine this is the bike, the tire's spinning like that. So this is attached to the bike. Everything else is not attached. So apart from, of course, these, which are spinning just in these little sockets here. And this side of the chain, it looks like is just a generic gear. There's not really anything else to this side. I don't know how they get the belt on here. That's kind of confusing. I mean, it's just stuck on there. So I guess they must have put it on before, but like, how do you change the belt, you know? I would imagine this wheel mechanism is pretty similar to the back one, but this one obviously doesn't have the gear on it. This thing is very dirty. But yeah, it looks like this one just spins on a little bearing here, which I'm assuming is the same as the one in that one. First off, I'm just gonna dirty my hands more by taking off this weird cobwebs, because this thing is absolutely disgusting for some reason. Yeah, look right there, guys. Got a nice little gear here. Spins separately from this, as we learned, because this is attached to the bike. So this spins separately, and the wheels spin separately from these little axles here, which means these bearings must be turning this around them. So we're gonna get a closer look at these things. I was gonna say the wrench isn't gonna cut it this time, and I found this one that fits this size, but then I realized there's this weird screw on both sides that gets in the way, so I'm not even gonna be able to use this when it's actually in here. So you know what, we're going back to our trusty friend, the wrench, and I guess he's just gonna have to cut it this time. And we're gonna have some way to somehow hold this gear in place. I'm not really sure how we're gonna do that, but I'm just gonna use my other hand and see if that works. All right, so I managed to get it loose. Had to go get help from my mother again. As you can see, it's pitch black outside now. Not pitch black, but it's pretty blue. So to actually get this thing off, here, I'll bring it into the sensor light so you can see. I had to put one wrench on one side and unscrew it from the other side. So I had this red one on one side. I'll set it up just to show you how I did this. So basically, I had this red one over here, and then had to unscrew this with this one so that it wouldn't rotate all the way. And then my mom had to hold that one. So I don't know how you would do this with one person. I guess you could just hold this side and then unscrew with your other hand. But yeah, to keep this from just moving around, you know. So I'm gonna have to hold that side and then unscrew this, and I'll come back when I've unscrewed it. Also, I just thought this was a legendary scene right here. I let go of the wheel and it was just still standing. I was like, why is it still standing? It's just this wrench is holding up the whole thing. It's actually a pretty legendary kickstand. I don't know why. I didn't even think about that, but like, look at this. That's epic. It's just a tire. Tire's just standing on its own. All right, so I unscrewed that. As you can see, the bolt is off. There it is. But what I was realizing is this is really greasy right here. I guess maybe it's not grease, but it's like oily. See that? So I'm assuming that's where the bearing is, and that's what it's turning on. But also it's in like chunks, and I don't know if that's how it's supposed to be. I'm assuming not, but yeah, it's really oily down there. I'm gonna take the whole thing off and then we can get a better look, but yeah, it's definitely oily. I'm gonna move everything over here in the light just so you guys can see. So I've had to stand up like 10 times because the motion sensor light doesn't like to stay on. It's pretty late now. I might have to continue this tomorrow or something. Hopefully I'm not busy. But I just wanted to show you guys this before I took it off. It was actually loose enough that I can just do it with my hands now. So hopefully this doesn't spin the whole thing, but there we are. And look at that. Whole thing's coming off. And look at that, guys. Looks disgusting. Okay. This is crazy. I need to get some floodlights or just move this inside. Hopefully we can clear out the garage and then I can just move this whole show inside, you know. We're just gonna take that guy off. There we are. It's our little screw guy. I should have probably kept these all in one place. I'm gonna have to look for all the pieces tomorrow because I have no idea where they went. I got some of that goop on my hand. That's actually disgusting, but it's fine. We'll just wipe that on the beautiful logo here. I don't know what that's called, I guess. Whatever they put inside the bearings. So we can actually see the bearing here. Oh, this will actually come off now. So look at that, guys. Okay. Well, the bearing just fell out. I should probably use some gloves, but I'll just wash my hands after. I'm probably fine. Look at this, guys. You can see a bearing. I'm not really sure what that is. I don't know if it's supposed to look like that. It looks like there's some kind of like weird jelly on it. I'm assuming that's whatever they lubed this up with. I really don't know if it's meant to look like that. Like, is that just a bunch of mud in there? Or is it just like oil that's supposed to be in there, you know? That's what I'm confused about. But surely it's not just mud. Like, it wouldn't just stay wet in there, you know? It would dry. But yeah, as you can see there, this goes on. Sorry, the light turned off again. This goes on right on here. Just like that. And then, see, it would just shake around like that. But we got a bearing in there. This little ball bearing. And so those balls can turn around this thing. And that is turning this gear. That's why this gear is separate, right? And then you want to know why the wheel turns separately from the gear? Well, look no further. See this right here? It's kind of hard to see because it's so dirty. But right there we have another ball bearing. You can see those little balls down in there. So that's another ball bearing. It's much bigger. But yeah, so that rotates this right here. You can't really see. Maybe I'll put a rock in there. Is this a bad idea? Yeah, see, that one rotates around. So those little balls are what rotate this little screw thing in here. So it'll be rotating like that. That's what, so it's just moving like that. I think it rotates actually right there on the base of that thing. Right there. But yeah, so that's gonna be spinning like that from the chain. Obviously, this bearing here is what makes this be able to move around that thing right there. So this is attached to the bike via that thing. So this thing directly attaches to that. And then we got two ball bearings, one for these, the tire, and one more for this. Then I think they have them on either side. Or they at least have these ball bearings on either side. I don't know if they have this one because we don't really have a gear on the other side. But that's cool to see. I think that's pretty much everything to see here. You can check out the other side though too. Well, I just got this stuck in there. Nice going. Definitely not a clean job. Got lots of this weird goop on me. It's all over this hand too. It's definitely messy. I mean, look at this. It was just messy hole. Okay, well, I lifted it up and the entire thing fell out. But that means we can take a check out this thing right here. So yeah, it looks like this thing is actually cracked. So it's not supposed to be like that because it's completely cracked in half here, right? And so I'm imagining this goop stuff isn't supposed to be exploded everywhere. I'd imagine it's probably a little more orderly maybe. But look at this right here. So my phone died and I had to take it back in and charge it for a while. So it's 9 p.m. now. Much darker as you can see. Pretty much blackout. But yeah, let's check out this thing right here. I mean, this is a little more complicated, you know. I don't have a genius mind as much as I sometimes pretend I do. But, okay. This is going to be an issue. So this right here went into the wheel, right? And the wheel was right on this thing. If we take this wheel, we can see in there, it just pretty much goes straight through. And on this side, there's not actually a ball bearing. And that's because it's right there. The ball bearing is actually on this end here. So yeah, you can see it right there. That's the ball bearing. I just got that all over me. It's disgusting. But yeah, so that's actually the ball bearing that goes on the other end. So that would go right in here. Which means that this whole assembly goes in like that way, right? It's getting very dirty here on the ground, so it's probably not a great way to show it, but... So this bearing here in unison with the one that goes on the other side, which is right there, is what turns this tire. And it's turning that around this bolt here. So here you can see this right here is where this gear actually screws in, right there. And so it would have the bearing, I believe the bearing was on the inside, right? Yeah, it was right there on the base of that. So the bearing would be right on top of that. So it's just rolling around like that, you know. But these bearings, as you can see, are on the inside. So it's actually just rolling around that nut right there, but it's resting on the top of that. So it's just rolling around. The gear would be right there. And then obviously the tires right here, spin around, vroom, vroom, on those bearings. And this is the lever that attaches to the bike. So it's like that. Everything's spinning around, you know. Got the gear on the other side, spinning with the tires. So that gear, actually, because it's this screw right here, is spinning this, right? That gear is spinning this thing. So not necessarily that, because that is staying still. But it's spinning that thing right there, which through this mechanism, I wish I could see this actually turning. But through this, it's actually turning the tire. So you can see that little nut in there. I mean, there was also this casing here that went around this outside. So I think that connected this and this, which is inside the tire. So it's kind of turning that inside of the tire there, making that friction, you know. And then also this was on the outside of the tire. So I think that spins the tire from the outside, because it spins that, you know, when this is turned by the gear, that spins this whole casing that cracked off, which spins this, which spins the tire from the outside here. And then it just goes like that. And the axle's in the middle the whole time, not moving, attached to that bracket. The gear's moving, but the gear can stop, and this is still going because of those bearings there that we see on the inside. And hopefully that's the last time I have to stand up and turn this motion sensor light on. It was a nice time, guys. I think we both learned quite a bit about bikes. I mean, I know I did. Hopefully you learned some too. I definitely know how this whole mechanism works now. I mean, not perfectly, but I got a pretty good grasp. And I mean, if you watch this over like 20 times, maybe you'll know perfectly. But I'm going to try and reassemble this tomorrow morning, not tonight, because we're nearing 10 o'clock now at night. So I'm probably going to want to do this in the morning. But yeah, I might reassemble this and then, you know, we'll just put it back on the bike. It's a pretty simple mechanism. And if we check back over here, I'd imagine this is pretty much the same thing. This moves pretty freely. So I think this just has, you know, 2 bearings inside there on either side of that, that just spin this whole thing all as one unit. Because if you stop this, you know, it stops the gear. This is all connected just to the gear. And that moves completely freely. There's not really any friction there. But there's also no weight, so that's probably why. Can't even stop this thing. But yeah, then the chain just goes on there, spins that one, spins a wheel. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed learning how a bike works. I got super greasy hands, so I'm probably going to go inside, wash my hands, go to sleep. But yeah, it was a fun night. Glad I got to get my hands dirty and work on this bike here. I mean, I'm not working on it, just taking it apart. But, you know, the more you know, the more you can know, you know. Just got to take it one step at a time. Learn the bike, then I learn whatever's after the bike. I don't really know. And then next up, I'm building a race car. All right, 10 likes, and I'm gonna build a race car. All right, 10 likes. Like the video, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.